In today's lesson, we're talking about 3 things that you need to do if you want to sound American. Hi, I'm Josh, your American English guide, and this is English Hacks Pronunciation, where I help you to sound more like a native and to understand natural speech better. So yes, there are 3 things that almost all Americans do and that create a very, very big part of what we would consider an American accent. So what are these 3 things? Number 1 is to pronounce all R's, okay? Pronounce all R's. Now, some of you already know this, but I was surprised to learn that some of you don't. And there might be various reasons for that. It's okay. We're all here to learn, okay? That's fine. But in British English, for example, the R consonant is pronounced, right? Run, write. And in British English, the vowel sounds are not pronounced as an R. If they say, for example, water, they don't say they say water, right? Or instead of saying or, they'll say like aw, okay? And I'm not British, it's not perfect, whatever. Point is, in American English, most speakers, there are some exceptions like maybe in Boston or parts of New York, whatever, where they might not pronounce the R's, but most American speakers will pronounce all R's, consonant and vowel. So we have the R consonant, we have the R vowel, which is the same thing. It's just the vowel is a tiny bit longer compared to the consonant. I have a lesson about that if you want to learn more. But we also have ear, air, R, and or. So we will fully pronounce those R sounds. Anytime there's an R, say an R. The second thing you have to do if you want to sound American is flap your D's and sometimes T's. And this might be something that you're already aware of, but with the way that some other people teach it, it might be a little more complicated than it has to be, and so I'm going to make it a little easier for you. So I know that some teachers talk about a flap D and a flap T. Now the trick in American English is that if you have a D at the start of an unstressed syllable and it is between 2 vowel sounds, then what's going to happen is it's going to become a flapped D. For example, the word riding. Riding. I'm riding a horse. So riding. Now that's all fine and good. But what about the T? What if we have this word? Well, the first point here, many teachers will call this a flap T. I do not use that term because it is not a T sound. In American English, it is the exact same sound as the flapped D, so that's the term that I use for both cases. It's just spelled with a T in this case. So the word writing and the word writing are pronounced 100% exactly the same. The same. Writing. If you were to very clearly enunciate and maybe emphasize the second word, you could use a T and say writing, but normally it's a flap D, okay? And that's what we're going to do in American English. If you don't do this, you will not sound American. If you want to learn more about the D sound in American English and the T sound in American English, I have lessons for that as part of the main pronunciation course that you can go watch. Now, the final tip, the last thing you need to do in order to sound American, is to hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. No. What you need to do is actually not something that you have to do to sound American, but it is something that, number 1, is super common in American English, and number 2, will make it actually easier for you to speak, and also make it easier to speak a bit faster as well. And that is to use what I call the dental T and dental D as a replacement for the TH sounds. Now, what I'll say here, I'm not going to go into all the details. I talked about this in the lesson about the TH sounds, which you can watch. Okay, and you can get a lot of information there. But the short version here is that if you, instead of doing the or th, see, notice putting my tongue between my teeth, that's the way that you're usually taught. If we are maybe really emphasizing or we're really trying to push out a TH sound, then we might put our tongue very clearly between the teeth. I think so. That's fine. However, there's actually a range of how you can make the TH sound, and I'm going to have a lesson specifically for that in the future. But let's say you have the word that. Now, number one, you don't have to go between the teeth. You can actually be right behind the teeth as long as you're super close. That's a very common way to do the TH, voiced TH in American English. However, there's another very, very common variation that most Americans won't even perceive as something different. The brain interprets it as a TH in American English for natives, okay? And what you're gonna do, instead of doing that, you're going to take the front of your tongue, you're gonna make it flat on your teeth, and it doesn't have to actually be on the teeth, which is why I say dental in quotation marks. It could be up a little bit more, but you wanna make sure that your tongue is flat, okay? That. If you speak a language like Spanish, you already have the sound, but be careful because we are not replacing the TH with a normal D sound, okay? That would be dat. There are some speakers who speak that way, and it's okay for them. It's okay if you want to speak that way, but it will sound informal, and it will probably sound uneducated to most American English speakers. So you have to be careful. And so you don't want to say dat, because normally the D in English is up here. You want to make it flatter and say that, okay? You will hear this everywhere on the news, in formal situations, in informal situations, all over the place, okay? Just once you start listening for it, you'll probably start hearing it everywhere. That's the dental D to replace the voiced TH, because D is voiced, or dental D is voiced, and voiced TH is voiced. For the voiceless TH, you replace it with a dental T. So instead of saying think, right, you can go here, say think. I think so. I think so. Again, do not do a normal T and say I think so. That's going to sound uneducated. It's going to sound maybe very informal, but most Americans don't do that, okay? So you have to replace it with the flatter version, and it's safe to just kind of put it flat on the teeth. There are other little details and other little things. This is what my channel is about. It's focused on American English, but those are the three really big things, especially those first two that you have to do. And the third thing that you don't have to do, but it makes things a lot easier and is super common. So if you have any questions or comments, let me know. And thank you guys so much for watching another English Hacks lesson. I'll see you in the next one.